Welcome and thank you. We've all made it here, so congratulations to everyone joining us this morning. Congratulations last night to Ash Barty and her performance. Seeing that, a great Aussie champion action lifted the spirits of our team. This is my first media opportunity in the role, but it's my 8th winter team, having started as a coach in 1994 and more recently as Deputy Chef de Mission at the last Games in Korea. During this time, Geoff Henke was the chef in 94, and then Ian Chesterman led our winter team so successfully for the next 6. Ian did an amazing job, and I fortunately had an opportunity to learn. Our winter sports legend Geoff Henke and Ian have both been a great help to me in preparation for Beijing. 2002 stands out as a major milestone. Our first Winter Games gold medals, won by Stephen Bradbury and Elisa Camplin. Elisa has joined this team as the Deputy Chef de Mission. I'm really pleased and look forward to Elisa helping us make this team a great success. Elisa will also share her 20-year gold medal anniversary with us later in the Games. Since I arrived 2 days ago, I've tried to get the feel of everything by visiting all of our sites as soon as I could. This was in part to make up for the fact that we didn't do the normal number of planning visits, so we didn't have the same orientation getting to an Olympic Games as we normally would have. I started off in Beijing on the first night, then went up to Yangqing before arriving in Zhangjiakou. All of the buildings are new, they're all slightly different, but they all work really well. What I have been really impressed with is the way we've set up our villages and how spacious the actual villages are. The Beijing villages are really high quality fit, the rooms are really big, very easy access to the dining room, we're very well situated. And our team have done a great job in setting up the spaces in each of the villages. A lot of these ideas and what we've done have come out of Tokyo, from the gym equipment to the food, so our athletes don't always have to go to the dining room, and the coffee and the barista are back in the Zhangjiakou village. And given our athletes have been on the road for numbers of months, travelling outside Australia, we've actually got a Queensland barista who's serving them Australian coffee, and it's something that they just love. So it's been a real pleasure we've been able to do that. It's worked really well. And all the touches are just helping to make our athletes feel at home. And our athletes are settling in well, and they're really happy with the setup. 15 athletes currently are on the ground, 10 here in Zhangjiakou, 2 athletes in Yangqing, 3 in Beijing. We have another 4 athletes coming in today, all into Yangqing. We have had an arrival last night, in the last 24 hours, and we have had a positive test at the airport. I can't share the team member's name right now, but we are following the process, including requiring permission to share medical information of any individual. This is a concern, but it is only the first test. Dr. Braun is here with us this morning, and he can share more about the process and how that process works. However, we do have some very disappointing news as well. Alpine skier Madison Hoffman was to have made her debut at these Olympic Games. She ruptured her ACL last week in the United States during a lead-up race, and she is out of these Games, and our team size has now been reduced to 43. There won't be a replacement for Maddie. And we'll throw it open to questions now.
Julian.
Sorry, Julian. Maybe one for Peter. Could you just clarify first of all, sorry, question maybe for Peter. Clarify first of all, was that an athlete who tested positive? I think Geoff said a start on the team.
a team member, so an athlete?
We're not saying at the moment. All we're saying is that it's a team member, and it's a single airport positive test, and the next stage is that there's to be a confirmatory test, which will be conducted in the next hour or so. And if the confirmatory test is positive, then that team member would go into isolation. If the confirmatory test is negative, then the process is that there is what's called an additional test. And if the additional test is negative, then they're out of isolation and they're into normal circulation. And the reason that may happen is that if it was a previous recovered infection, then people can release viral fragments because the airport testing is so sensitive. It's more sensitive in terms of the CT values than the ones that are done here. And so it's not uncommon that viral fragments are picked up in the airport and then subsequent confirmatory and additional test proves negative, and that's what we're hoping will be the situation. But we're going to wait and see how these tests evolve so that we can see whether this is viral fragments, or obviously if this is the start of a new infection, then it's a different situation and the person will be isolated for longer.
Charles.
Charles Croucher from Channel 9. With this person, this team member, were they in contact with any other members of the Australian squad or team, and are there any close contacts been identified in the Australian team?
No, there have been no close contacts. The team member went straight into isolation in their own room, and they're awaiting the confirmatory test. So there have been no close contacts.
I'm sure there are further questions, Damien.
You know, hypothetically, if this person does test positive, would we say this team member does test positive, we'd have to concede that their Olympic Games would be over, whether it be an official or a team member?
If either of the confirmatory or additional tests are positive, it's possible that that person can't fulfil their role, but more information is still available from the detail within those tests. So we look at the targets that are tested and what the CT values are, and then get an impression of where in the process of an infection is this situation. Is it on the tail end and the person's non-infectious, or is it at the start? If it's at the start, what you said is correct.
Just to follow up, then, obviously the team member, how's that team member right now? You get tapped on the shoulder and said positive, 5 days out for Olympic Games. How is that person feeling right now? Had interaction with this person?
Yep. That team member fully understands what the situation is and what the process is, and they are quite happy and comfortable with the process, just to write it out and see what the answer is. So there's no angst or stress about this. It's not an unexpected situation and everyone's prepared.
Are there further questions? I'm sure there are.
The injury, ACL, Geoff, you know the sport better than anyone. I mean, it's always a risk. It's a dangerous sport full time, but to have this happen, a week, less than a week ago, that's just devastating, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely tragic. I mean, athlete trains and they're, especially in alpine ski racing, family, I believe, lives overseas. The brother's also an alpine ski racer. So the whole family's invested in this journey. And just the fact that the athlete is selected to an Olympic team, and a very promising alpine athlete for our country, really promising, and we expect there will be further opportunities in Olympic Games, but it is a very sad and tough situation for that athlete and her family.
any of our athletes, I know they've been out to, just seeing on Instagram, they've been out to, particularly the moguls, they've been out to have a look.
Yeah.
Firstly, what's their first impression, and have they had a crack at the course yet in training?
No, they'll be on it this afternoon or this evening. The impressions are that I think Matt Graham used the terminology. It's like a standard Olympic course, which is longer than normal, so it's 250 metres. The moguls are quite open, so I mean they're openly spaced at the moment. That will change as there gets traffic on the course and people ski it, of course. But yeah, I mean it's a stunning venue. So when you go up, you have a look at the right side of the valley. You've got moguls and then you've got aerials, and they're both night events. So you've got the huge light towers, which are hugely impressive, and then you've got across the valley, you've got the half pipe, which looks absolutely pristine, and then the slope style PGS and snow and ski cross courses. So it's a fantastic setup at Secret Garden.
It's all 100% fake, which is not surprising. Does it make it any different?
Sorry, fake being artificial snow. Yeah. No, then artificial snow is actually preferred for a competition course because it is more consistent, and that's actually golf. It's actually par for the course. That's what most competition courses are, because it is more resilient to wear, and unlike when normal skiers or snowboarders ski, you've got people aren't as precise. The equipment isn't as sharp. But when you've got the best skiers in the world going exactly the same places, if you don't have a very firm surface, very resilient snow crystals that hold together, well, it just breaks up. So artificial is better.
Do I have any other hands to ask a question? We have a question here, and I'm hoping this device is going to work. So.
谢谢主持人。然后我是来自人民日报的记者，我叫王亮。然后我想请问一下代表团团长，就是能不能再给我们分享一下，就是运动员来到中国之后的一些实际的感受，包括衣食住行各个方面，包括训练的条件等等。谢谢。
Thank you for the question, Jeffrey. Were you able to? Was the question translated?
I actually only heard the Chinese version.
Okay, so could we have? I'm getting nothing. So we might have some assistance if we can, just to ensure that we're getting the translation for Mr. Lipshut to.
Maybe there's a separate channel.
Channel 1, okay.
Channel 1 now, if you can.
So, yes.
Yes,
Thank
I can
you.
hear you perfectly. Thank you.
我想问代表团团长的问题是，就是我们的运动员来到中国之后，能不能再分享一些他们的一些实际的感受，包括衣食住行以及训练和比赛的场馆等各个方面？谢谢。
Thank you. Our athletes, by and large, have had a very good arrival experience into China, and in terms of the food and beverage, they're still checking out all the various dining options in the dining room, but there's been a good variety. It's something, as I mentioned earlier, that we've also supplemented with our own supplies. The inspections of the competition venues, training venues, the impressions are excellent. The venues look first class and ready to go.
Are there further questions? If there are, yes, thank you very much.
Hello, Mr. Lipshut. And from the former interview from the Xinhua News Agency and from Xinhua News Agency, yes, China's Xinhua News Agency. From the former interview of my news agency, you said although there are some political views in Australia, but it will never affect to take the Olympics. So what's your opinion on, what's your comments on this thing?
Sorry, I missed part of the question.
I'm sorry, if you could repeat that question just a little slower.
It's just the
okay,
mask.
okay.
Yeah, the mask is difficult, thank you.
I'm the journalist from China's Xinhua News Agency. And from our former interview in the Australia, my colleagues, you said that although there are some politician opinions in Australia, but it will never affect the Australian athletes to compete for the Beijing 2022. So what's your comment on this thing?
Yeah, thank you. Listen, it is still the same. Our athletes view this opportunity as a hugely exciting opportunity. They're very pleased to be in China, and in terms of the connection to politics and what our athletes are doing here, there actually isn't that direct connection. That is for others. There's others in our country to manage that situation. Our athletes are here to fulfil their sporting opportunity, maximise that opportunity, and we're here to support them.
Are there further questions? Put your hand in the air if there are further questions. Thank you, Damien.
Doctor, the person who's been stopped at the airport, is the person showing any symptoms?
I don't really want to reveal medical details because there's confidentiality and all sorts of things. Yeah, I don't really want to comment. Thanks.
Okay.